What do you do if you had to figure out the information behind 11.5 million documents? Verify it and make sense of it. That was a challenge that a group of journalists had to face late last Panamanian law firm, Mossack Fonseca. This is one of many firms around the world that specialize in setting up accounts in offshore tax havens, like the British Virgin Islands, for rich and powerful people who like to keep secrets. John Doe had managed to copy every spreadsheet from this firm, every client file, like the British every email, from 1977 to the present day. It represented the biggest cache of inside information into the tax haven system that anyone had ever seen. But it also presented a gigantic challenge to investigative journalism. Think about it. 11.5 million documents containing the secrets of people from more than 200 different countries. Where do you start with such a vast resource? Where do you even begin to tell a story that can trail off into every corner of the globe and that can affect almost any person in any language, sometimes in ways they don't even know yet? John Doe had given the information to two journalists at the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung. He said he was motivated by, and I quote, the scale of the injustice that the documents would reveal. But one newsroom alone can never make sense of such a vast amount of information. So the Süddeutsche Zeitung reached out to my organization, the Washington DC, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. But we decided to do something that was the very opposite of everything we've been taught to do as journalists. Share. Think about it. 11.5 By nature, investigative reporters are lone wolves. We fiercely guard our secrets, at times even from our editors, because we know that the moment that we tell them what we have, they'll want that story right away. And to be frank, when you get a good story, you like to keep the glory to yourself. Ways they don't even know yet. But there's no doubt that we live in a shrinking world and that the media has largely been slow to wake up to this. The issues we report on are more and more transnational. And I quote, giant corporations operate on a global level. That the documents environmental and health crises. But one newsroom alone can never make sense of such financial flows and financial crises. So it seems staggering that journalism is so late to cover stories in a critical way. And it also seems staggering that journalism has been so slow to wake up to the possibilities that technology brings, rather than being frightened of it. Share. The reason journalists are scared of technology is this. The profession's largest institutions are going through investigative reporters are because of the changing way that people are consuming news. At times, even advertising were putting their image rights into offshore companies, thereby likely avoiding taxes in the countries where they plied their trade. But perhaps most exciting of all, putting their image rights into offshore companies, thereby likely avoiding taxes in the countries where they plied their trade. Figures like Petro Poroshenko in Ukraine, with a number of world leaders, close associates of Vladimir Putin in Russia, in the countries where they plied their trade. And the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, who was linked through his late father, Ian Cameron. Buried in the documents were secret offshore entities such as Wintris Inc., a company in the British Virgin Islands that had actually belonged to the sitting Icelandic Prime Minister. I like to refer to Johannes Christiansen, the Icelandic reporter we invited to join. At that time, he sat on information that would eventually bring down the leader of his country. Now, when you're an investigative reporter and you make an amazing discovery, such as your prime minister can be linked to a secret offshore company, that company has a financial interest in Icelandic banks, the very issue that he's been elected on, well, your instinct is to scream out very loud. Instead, as one of the few people that he could speak to, Johannes and I shared a kind of gallows humor. Winters is coming, he used to say. Instead, as one of the few people that he could speak to, we were big fans. Johannes and I shared a kind of gallows humor. When Johannes, reported like Johannes wanted to scream, they did so inside the virtual newsroom. And then they turned those screams into stories by going outside documents, to court records, official company registers, and by eventually putting questions to those that we intended to name. Panama Papers actually gave the reporters or allowed the reporters to look at the world through a different lens from everybody else. As we were researching the story, unconnected to us, a major political bribery scandal happened in Brazil. A new leader was elected in Argentina. The FBI began to indict officials at FIFA, the organization that controls the world of professional soccer. And then they tried to give insights into each one of these unfolding events. So you can imagine the pressure and the ego dramas that could have ruined what we were trying to do. Any one of these journalists, they could have broken the pact, but they didn't. And on April 3rd this year, at exactly 8 p.m. German time, we published simultaneously in 76 countries. The Panama Papers quickly became one of the biggest stories of the year. This is the scene in Iceland the day after we published. It was the first of many protests. The Icelandic Prime Minister had to resign. It was the first of many resignations. We spotlighted many famous people, such as Lionel Messi, the most famous soccer player in the world. And there were some unintended consequences. These alleged members of a Mexican drug cartel were arrested after we published details about their hideout. They'd been using the address to register their offshore company. There's a kind of irony in what we've been able to do. The technology, the internet, that has broken the business model is allowing us to reinvent journalism itself. And this dynamic is producing unprecedented levels of transparency and impact. We showed how a group of journalists can affect change across the world by applying new methods and old-fashioned journalism techniques to vast amounts of leaked information. We put all-important context around what was given to us by John Doe.
Close
and by sharing
associates
resources,
of Vladimir
we were able to dig
Putin
deep,
in Russia,
much deeper and longer than most media organizations allow these days,
who is
because
linked
of
through his
financial
late father,
concerns.
Ian Cameron.
Now, it was a big risk,
Buried in the
and it wouldn't work
documents
for every story.
were secret offshore entities such as Wintris
that you
Inc.,
can write about any country from
a
just about
company
anywhere,
in the British Virgin
and then
Islands that
choose
had
your
actually
preferred
belonged
battleground
to a
to
sitting
defend your work.
Icelandic Prime Minister.
Try
I'd
obtaining
like
a
to
court
refer to
injunction that was
Johannes
eventually telling the
Christensen,
story
the Icelandic reporter we
76
invited to
different
join the
countries.
project, as the
Try
loneliest man in the
stopping the
world.
inevitable.
For 9 months, he
Shortly
refused
after we
paid work
published, I got a
and lived
three-word
off the
text from
earnings of his
Johannes.
wife. He pasted
Wintris
tarps over the windows of his
has
home.
arrived. It had arrived, and so too perhaps has a new era for journalism.
所谓的可以用嘛，一个是说那个到时候连线的部分呢，笔电要独立作业，它要独立的电脑，并且要独立的就是音乐设备、音效设备，所以它没办法，就是它不能跟
I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. And the first one is, you have been working in secrecy for over a year with
因为你要看配置啊，
350
比如
colleagues
说
from
那个
over
电脑
the
要
world.
在哪里
Has there
啊？
ever been a moment when you
对，这是一个。然
thought
后第二个
that
想再
the
请你帮
leaked
忙
may
的
be
是，
leaked,
你那
that,
边会有
that
网络线
collaboration
吗？
may just be broken by somebody publishing a story or somebody not in their group releasing some information that they would get to know?
We had a series of crises along the way, including when something major was happening in the world. Of course, the journalists from that country wanted to publish right away. We had to calm them down. Probably the biggest crisis we had was a week before publication. We'd sent a series of questions to the associates of Vladimir Putin, but instead of responding, the Kremlin actually held a press conference and denounced us, and denounced the whole thing as being, I guess, a plot from the West. At that point, Putin thought it was just about him. And of course, a lot of the editors around the world were very nervous about this. They thought that the story was going to get out. You can imagine the amount of time they'd spent, the amount of resources, money that had been spent on this. So I had to basically spend the last week calming everyone down, a bit like a general where you're holding your troops back, calm, remain calm, and then eventually, of course, they all did.
And then, a couple of weeks ago or so, you released a lot of the documents as an open database for everybody to search via keyword, essentially.
We very much believe that the basic information about the offshore world should be made public. Now, what we didn't do, we didn't publish the underlying documents that journalists are working with, but the basic information, such as the name of a person, what their offshore company was, and what the name of that offshore company is now all available online. In fact, the biggest resource of its kind, basically, is out there now.
对，然后你要看一下，
Thank you for the work you
只是
do.
你要把它笔记下来。 就是好。等一下要请你到那个我们的211教室测试的东西有，第一个网路线孔，它是不是可以被使用的？第二个桌面上的 USB 孔，它是不是可以被使用的？它是不是每一个都可以读得到？你懂我意思吗？对，它是不是都可以读得到？你有没有？你就拿我那一条线，我不是有给你？那你有 USB 吗？你身上有 USB 吗？好，那你就拿我那一条线。对，然后如果可以的话，你先问看看子荣或景全中午可不可以来协助你这样子。啊，你要提醒那个景全去问冷气的问题，还有麦克风的问题。他的影片跟麦克风没办法同时使用。昨天啊，你还记得吗？应该是说，第一个它可以怎么解决？是设定问题吗？是什么原因？第一个是问原因，那这样我们才知道怎么解决，然后询问学校说解决的方法这样子。对，我今天有拍那个什么照片，不然这个问题我等一下来问。不是，是那个我在那个医化电脑，它上面有电话，我打去问。对，好，我先问，然后继续你要测试的东西。简单来说就是你要测试教室211它的电子讲桌所有的每一个孔都可以被使用，它都是正常的。所以你电子讲台，你的桌面它的所有 USB 孔都要测试过，以及你用你的有线麦克风去测试看看。因为我昨天插它是坏掉的，它只能插上面，所以你帮我测试一下，而且你每一次都要测试过，你自己麦克风自己标示1、2、3、4，就是你的麦克风。对。对，因为你自己要编号，你才知道说这一支测过，哪一支还没测过这样子。然后你要就是移一下位置，看会不会有像昨天不知道为什么就是一直都会有那个 echo 回音，都有干扰，所以这个很重要，你就测试一下这样子。然后调音量大小，再来是桌面测试完之后换桌，就是那个主机的部分，主机旁边那一台叫 amp， 就是扩大机，那边也有孔，然后它上面会有写麦克风1、麦克风2，你也要测试，然后上面也有英文标识，你就看那个英文标识的意思，那你就测试每个孔使用的状况，这样子。我们当然既然就是尽量就是接上面啊，因为麦克风它现在就是因为上面没办法插，所以我才插下面。就是我现在要知道所有每一个孔它的状况，对，那我再来思考说我要如何使用，对，嘿，这样子。好，然后连那个主机啊，主机它不是有耳机孔吗？跟它本身也有 USB 吗？对，所以你有3个部分哦，一个是桌面，然后一个是那个扩大机，然后第3个是主机，这样知道吼？所以你麦克风你测上面也要测下面哦。然后还有测试是麦克风，因为它有麦克风1、麦克风2嘛，那你就测试说1跟2的时候，它可不可以同时使用？ 对对对对对对对对，嘿，你先测完，你不是啊，你就对呀对呀对呀，好，OK OK，好，拜拜，好，谢谢，好，拜拜，嗯，嘿，你有耳机吗？嘿，那你就用耳机测。耳机啊，你主机不是有耳机孔吗？对啊，啊你就听听看，你不用讲话，对你儿子只要听就，对对对对对，嘿，OK OK，好好好，OK 好，还有吗？好，谢谢谢谢啊你手机开铃声啊，你手机开铃声，嘿，手机开铃声，还有吗？嘿，什么东西？对，你帮我录一段好不好？录一段，对，嘿，然后传给我。Echo，那你有像我刚刚讲的那个把麦克风那个关掉吗？只剩下输出音效，可是还是有 echo。不是不是，输出音效不要关。对，你把它录一段我看看。好，好，好，好，你再录给我。好，好，谢谢，好好，拜拜。
Into stories by going outside McDonald's to court records, official company company company
to prevent prying eyes during the long Icelandic winter. And he soon ran out of excuses to explain his many absences as he worked red-eyed, night after night, month after month. In all that time, he sat on information that would eventually bring down the leader of his country. Now, when you're an investigative reporter and you make an amazing discovery, such as your Prime Minister, company.
What do you do if you had to figure out the information behind 11.5 million documents? Verify it and make sense of it. That was a challenge that a group of journalists had to face late last year. An anonymous person calling himself John Doe had somehow managed to copy nearly 40 years of records of the Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca. This is one of many firms around the world that specialize in setting up accounts in offshore tax havens, like the British Virgin Islands, for rich and powerful people who like to keep secrets. John Doe had managed to copy every spreadsheet from this firm,
in setting up accounts
every
in
client
offshore
file,
tax havens,
every email,
like the British Virgin Islands,
from
for rich
1977
and powerful
to the present day.
who like to keep secrets.
It represented the biggest cache
John Doe had
of
managed
inside
to copy
information
every
into the
spreadsheet
tax haven system that
every
everyone
client
ever
file,
sees.
every
But it
email
also
to the British
presented
Virgin Islands,
a gigantic challenge
powerful
to investigative
who like
journalism.
to keep secrets.
It represented Think about it.
John Doe had
11.5 million documents containing the secrets of people from more than 200 different countries. Where do you start with such a vast resource? Where do you even begin to tell a story that can trail off into every corner of the globe, that can affect almost any person, people in any language, sometimes in ways they don't even know yet? John Doe had given the information to two journalists at the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung. He said he was motivated by, and I quote, the scale of the injustice that the documents would reveal. John Doe had given the information, but one newsroom alone could never make sense of such a vast amount of information. So the Süddeutsche Zeitung reached out to my organization in Washington, D.C., the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. We decided to do something that was the very opposite of everything we've been taught to do as journalists. Share Washington, D.C., the International. By nature, investigative reporters are lone wolves. We fiercely guard our secrets, at times even from our editors, because we know that the moment that we tell them what we have, they'll want that story right away. And to be frank, when you get a good story, you like to keep the glory to yourself. But there's no doubt that we live in a shrinking world and that the media has largely been slow to wake up to this. The issues we report on are more and more transnational. Giant corporations operate on a global level. Environmental and health crises are global. So too are financial flows and financial crises. So it seems staggering that journalism has been so late to cover stories in a truly global way. And it also seems staggering that journalism has been so slow to wake up to the possibilities that technology brings, rather than being frightened of it. The reason journalists are scared of technology is this. The profession's largest institutions are going through tough times because of the changing way that people are consuming news. The advertising business models that have sustained reporting are broken. And this has plunged journalism into crisis, forcing those institutions to re-examine how they function. But where there is crisis, there is also opportunity. The first challenge presented by what would eventually become known as the Panama Papers was to make the documents searchable and readable. There were nearly 5 million emails, 2 million PDFs that needed to be scanned and indexed, and millions more files and other kinds of documents. They all needed to be housed in a safe and secure location in the cloud. We next invited reporters to have a look at the documents. In all, reporters from more than 100 media organizations in 76 countries, from the BBC in Britain to Le Monde newspaper in France to the Asahi Shimbun in Japan. Native eyes on native names, we called it. The idea being, who best to tell you who was important to Nigeria than a Nigerian journalist? Who best in Canada than a Canadian? There were only two rules for everyone who was invited. We all agreed to share everything that we found with everybody else. And we all agreed to publish together on the same day. We chose our media partners based on trust that had been built up through previous smaller collaborations, and also from leads that jumped out from the documents. Over the next few months, my small non-profit organization of less than 20 people was joined by more than 350 other reporters from 25 language groups. The biggest information leak in history had now spawned the biggest journalism collaboration in history. 376 sets of native eyes doing what journalists normally never do, working shoulder to shoulder, sharing information, but telling no one. For it became clear at this point that in order to make the biggest kind of noise, we first needed the biggest kind of silence. To manage a project over the many months that it would take, we built a secure virtual newsroom. We used encrypted communication systems, and we built a specially designed search engine. Inside the virtual newsroom, the reporters could gather around the themes that were emerging from the documents. Those interested in blood diamonds or the exotic art, for instance, could share information about how the offshore world was being used to hide the trade in both of those commodities. Those interested in sport could share information about how famous sports stars were putting their image rights into offshore companies, thereby likely avoiding taxes in the countries where they plied their trade. But perhaps most exciting of all were the number of world leaders and elect politicians that were emerging from the documents. Figures like Petro Poroshenko in Ukraine, close associates of Vladimir Putin in Russia, and the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, who was linked through his late father, Ian Cameron. Buried in the documents were secret offshore entities such as Wintris Inc., a company in the British Virgin Islands that had actually belonged to the sitting Icelandic Prime Minister. I like to refer to Johannes Christiansen, the Icelandic reporter we invited to join the project, as the loneliest man in the world. For 9 months, he refused paid work and lived off the earnings of his wife. He pasted tarps over the windows of his home to prevent prying eyes during the long Icelandic winter. And he soon ran out of excuses to explain his many absences as he worked red-eyed, night after night, month after month. In all that time, he sat on information that would eventually bring down the leader of his country. Now, when you're an investigative reporter and you make an amazing discovery, such as your prime minister can be linked to a secret offshore company, that company has a financial interest in Icelandic banks, the very issue that he's been elected on, well, your instinct is to scream out very loud. Instead, as one of the few people that he could speak to, Johannes and I shared a kind of gallows humor. Winter is coming, he used to say. We were big fans of Game of Thrones. Now, when reporters like Johannes wanted to scream, they did so inside the virtual newsroom. And then they turned those screams into stories by going outside the documents, to court records, official company registers, and by eventually putting questions to those that we intended to name. Panama Papers actually gave the reporters, or allowed the reporters to look at the world through a different lens from everybody else. As we were researching the story, unconnected to us, a major political bribery scandal happened in Brazil. A new leader was elected in Argentina. The FBI began to indict officials at FIFA, the organization that controls the world of professional soccer. The Panama Papers actually had unique insights into each one of these unfolding events. So you can imagine the pressure and the ego dramas that could have ruined what we were trying to do. Any one of these journalists, they could have broken the pact, but they didn't. And on April 3rd this year, at exactly 8 p.m. German time, we published simultaneously in 76 countries. Panama Papers quickly became one of the biggest stories of the year. This is the scene in Iceland the day after we published. It was the first of many protests. The Icelandic Prime Minister had to resign. It was the first of many resignations. We spotlighted many famous people, such as Lionel Messi, the most famous soccer player in the world. And there were some unintended consequences. These alleged members of a Mexican drug cartel were arrested after we published details about their hideout. They'd been using the address to register their offshore company. There's a kind of irony in what we've been able to do. The technology, the internet, that has broken the business model is allowing us to reinvent journalism itself. And this dynamic is producing unprecedented levels of transparency and impact. We showed how a group of journalists can affect change across the world by applying new methods and old-fashioned journalism techniques to vast amounts of leaked information. We put all-important context around what was given to us by John Doe. And by sharing resources, we were able to dig deep, much deeper and longer than most media organizations allow these days because of financial concerns. Now, it was a big risk, and it wouldn't work for every story. But we showed with the Panama Papers that you can write about any country from just about anywhere, and then choose your preferred battleground to defend your work. Try obtaining a court injunction that would prevent the telling of a story in 76 different countries. Try stopping the inevitable. Shortly after we published, I got a 3-word text from Johannes. Winters has arrived. It had arrived, and so too, perhaps, has a new era for journalism. Thank you.
Gerard, thank you. I guess you're going to send that applause to the 350 journalists who worked with you, right?
Very kind.
I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. And the first one is, you have been working in secrecy for over a year with 350-something colleagues from all over the world. Has there ever been a moment when you thought that the leaked may be leaked, that that collaboration may just be broken by somebody publishing a story, or somebody not in their group releasing some information that they would get to know?
We had a series of crises along the way, including when something major was happening in the world. Of course, the journalists from that country wanted to publish right away. We had to calm them down. Probably the biggest crisis we had was a week before publication. We'd sent a series of questions to the associates of Vladimir Putin, but instead of responding, the Kremlin actually held a press conference and denounced us, and denounced the whole thing as being, I guess, a plot from the West. At that point, Putin thought it was just about him. And of course, a lot of the editors around the world were very nervous about this. They thought that the story was going to get out. You can imagine the amount of time they'd spent, the amount of resources, money that had been spent on this. So I had to basically spend the last week calming everyone down, a bit like a general where you're holding your troops back, calm, remain calm, and then eventually, of course, they all did.
And a couple of weeks ago or so, you released a lot of the documents as an open database for everybody to search via keyword, essentially.
Yeah, we very much believe that the basic information about the offshore world should be made public. Now, what we didn't do, we didn't publish the underlying documents that the journalists were working with, but the basic information, such as the name of a person, what their offshore company was, and what the name of that offshore company is now all available online. In fact, the biggest resource of its kind, of this kind, basically, is out there now.
Gerard, thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.